to Hypothetically Intentional, where we ask the question, what if we set intentions with everything we did? I am your son, Andrew.
And I am your mom and co-host, Michelle.
Yes, I'm also your co-host, but your son first, your co-host second.
Fair.
Your best friend third.
Okay.
Your mailman fourth.
Mailman?
Yep, I'm secretly a mailman.
Oh. Well, I mean, sometimes you do bring mail to the house.
It's true.
Not very often, but occasionally.
Yeah.
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 All right, I will accept those roles.
Okay, good. Do you have any additional titles you'd like to throw on yourself? You're a master. Master Michelle, Mom.
Oh, dear.
Albers.
Yeah, I don't...
That's your name
okay.
in my phone. Master Michelle, Mom,
Oh my
Albers.
gosh, that's okay. Yeah, I don't super resonate with the word master, but okay.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's all right.
I can
get
delete it if you want.
No, you can have whatever you want in your
Okay.
phone. I'm just saying, like, I don't walk around going, hey, hi, I'm Master Michelle. Nice to meet you.
But you have such a great opportunity.
I
How
do.
many people get to say that?
It's fair.
No, that's fair. I wouldn't do that either.
Yeah, I choose, I don't know.
Except for some people, I might. If it was like clear that they would know I'm not being seriously uppity about it, I would totally joke around with that.
Yeah, and I suppose I wouldn't be above being snarky with it if the perfect scenario happened.
Exactly.
All right, so intentions.
Intentions. So you set an intention last week, so I can set it this week. And today we're going to talk about authenticity. We're going back to the video by, what was his name?
Dr. Gabor Mate.
Dr. Gabor Mate. And we're going to be talking, last week we talked about attachment, one of his main components of well-being or something. And
He was talking about being too kind.
Yeah, he was talking about being
too
too
nice
kind.
is harmful.
Yeah, and I think attachment is more towards that side of things. Or attachment. Authenticity is more towards that side of things. I think we'll get more into that discussion this week. But I think a good intention for us to set is to... the obvious one would just be to be authentic in ourselves, which is, I think it's a good intention to set. I'm trying to think of anything more clever than that.
I have a layer within that for me.
Add a layer.
So my intention would be to not only be authentic, well, I guess it's the same thing, but I also don't want to hide or shy away from difficult conversation because I hid what I do for so long. And so there might be a tendency for me, even on this podcast, to shy away from like what I really do or who I really am. And my intention today is to really just to not hide, which is the same as being authentic, I suppose, but it's different on some level.
Yeah, I feel like specifically calling out old patterns of inauthenticity is a good thing. Like it makes it more actionable.
Yeah, and that's what I like about intentions is they bring an awareness in for me. That's I have a reflection with them often. Mm-hmm. Reflection and forward thinking, right? It's kind of like both. It's puts me in the present with mindfulness around both the past and the future. Ooh, I've never thought of it that way, but that's the way it came in today. That's kind of cool. I'm gonna have to think about that one.
Nice.
So, back to the video. Authenticity.
Yeah, authenticity. So, Dr. Gabor Mate talked about...
I feel like you talked about being seen and really revealing who you really are. Like, uncovering or revealing who you really are is important in this life. Like, ultimately, that's what we want. We want to be seen for who we are and what we have to offer the world. And that's an important piece of the connection piece if we want to bring it back to attachment.
Mm-hmm. And one of the really big sort of things he was saying was that authenticity, well, the big thing he was saying was that if you're not authentic, then it can lead to like physical and mental health issues. Like the opening sort of quote of the video, and they use it again later, this is the only quote that they repeated, was, once you reconnect with your authentic self, a lot of medical conditions can abate or remit completely. And last week I referred to some things that I have some problems with in this video, and this is one of them. I think that is a very potent claim, a very medical claim that I don't he provides no evidence for. And he says you can find evidence in my book, but he glosses over it, and it felt very unsubstantiated to me, because like there are certainly a lot of like there is an undeniable, well, there is a well supported by evidence understanding that many illnesses, especially mental illnesses, are correlated with like stress, anxiety, the sort of things that would probably be very much related to inauthenticity. But he was like specifically talking about cancer and how that is connected to being inauthentic with yourself, and he like brought up an example of like, we talk about how nice and kind someone is, and then they die at age 50 of cancer, and we talk at their funeral about how nice they were, and we don't draw the connection about the fact that it was because they were inauthentic. And like, I think drawing that causal connection is really just inappropriate for like I would want to see a lot of research connecting those things before making those claims, because especially the claim that reconnecting with yourself can heal those things is very much treading towards like pushing people away from actual medicine and instead telling them to just feel good about yourselves, and that feels very icky to me. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I didn't make the leap that whatever he was claiming was taking them away from anything else. I think that's giving him way too much power, But I get that some people might make that leap. So I have a problem anytime... Well, I mean, he is a doctor. I don't know what kind of doctor. To be fair, I have not read the book. So not fair for me to like make assumptions of what kind of doctor he is or what he's claiming and what stats he's doing. But so I will say on that regard, the video feels incomplete, like from a data perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like it's so complicated. I feel like what you were saying, right? Like stress and things can cause disease. I think of it more as dis-ease. And then the disease comes later. Like, I don't mean... Oh, this is going to get complicated. It's hard for me to explain it. But, so I feel like if we live for a long period of time, not in alignment with our soul's purpose, or not in our authentic self, I do believe that causes pain, tension, aches, right? Like, it causes obstacles in our body. I wouldn't go make a giant leap to say that it causes specific obstacles in our body, right? Like I would say, if we're, it takes a lot of energy to hide yourself. It takes a lot of energy to keep running into walls, like metaphorical walls, as we try to figure out who we really are and what we really want. If you're living your life in a place where you're not happy, you're not doing something that brings you some sort of contribution to the world, right? I think we also want to give to the world. I think that's part of human nature. I think we want to make a difference. I think we want to be seen. If you don't have any of those parts, I do believe that you're going to have I don't want to use the word illness because I don't think that's the right word here. I think you're going to have tension. You're going to have obstacles. Life's going to be harder. You're going to have pain in your body. You're going to have pain in your mind, right? Potentially, not you're going to, but you could. It causes obstacles, and those over time, those things build. So if I tell myself every single day, they talk about the plants, right? And I might be going a little bit too far away from this, but I'm not willing to make the big leap to say that if you're living inauthentically, you get cancer and that's your fault.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not willing to make that leap.
To his credit, he did specifically say these things aren't your fault and you should you shouldn't feel bad at it. So at first I was really skeptical. Oh, is he going to start victim blaming people for cancer? But he did clear that up later. So to his credit, I don't want to say that, but go on. I do like what you're saying a lot.
So I'm, they have those studies where you talk to plants and you tell them bad things and you don't, and then the plant wilts and doesn't thrive, and then then you tell a plant good things and then the plant does. Whether they're real studies or not, I don't know. I know that in my brain, if I tell because I used to, I have a very busy brain. My brain goes all the time. And my brain used to tell me a bunch of bullshit that sucked and was mean and was not true. But I believed it at the time. And over time, in doing the work, my mindset has shifted. And now I have self-trust and self-love and self-confidence that over time I've shifted out of these old stories that I was telling myself. And I can tell you that my mental state is better. Mm-hmm. And it's way more authentic. Like, I've always, even when I was in like my darkest times, I'm just going to say it that way. That sounds so, blech, but
yeah,
when I was in my hardest moments of life, I still felt like the me inside of me. Like, I knew there was a happy-go-lucky girl in there. There was also a pained little girl in there, right? And a pained, teenager in there, and a pained, early 20s person. And over the years, you have like these brilliant moments that are in you, and you have these not so brilliant moments or suppressed moments. Because I do feel like those moments are all suppressed. They're suppressing who I really was. They kept me hidden. They kept me in the darkness, so to speak. They kept me in the struggle. And so I do think that being inauthentic causes you, quote unquote, harm on some level. I 100% agree with that. Like, mm-hmm. I think the more you step into who you really are and stop letting fear stop you from living your life, and you're willing to get vulnerable with people you care about, and then eventually with whoever you meet, and just, I think it's refreshing to meet people who aren't all masked up. I think it's refreshing to meet people who are willing to say, I think back to when I was student teaching preschool, there's a little girl in that room who wore like the craziest, coolest outfits. Her parents let her dress herself every day. And she was like so bubbly and happy, and like, you never know. Her socks were always mismatched. She may or may not have her pants on backwards. Actually, most of the time she wore a dress. But like, it was just like, it felt to me like she was authentic to her every single day. Mm-hmm. And she brought joy to the room. Yeah. Everybody loved seeing her because she just didn't like try and show up in a way that everybody expected her to. She just showed up as her. And when I meet people like that, I find it refreshing. And it brings up my energy and takes away some, like if I'm having a down day, right? Like the best way to cheer me up is to meet somebody authentic in the room who can hold the space. Because even if they don't realize it, they're holding space when they show up authentically. I don't know. Did that go off on a tangent?
No, I think that is very germane to like what this article is talking about, or the video is talking about. And to me, it felt like a much more like appropriate and nuanced way of talking about it. Like, I agree with all of that. Like, I love people who are just like themselves, unashamedly themselves and unperformatively themselves, and just like they're just them, they're doing their thing, and like I love hanging out with those people. They're great. I try to be that person. And like I think authenticity, and even like failing to do that, I also agree that causes harm by and large. It's hard not to be yourself. It's hard to like feel like you have to, and like you said, it's like a coping mechanism. He mentioned this in the video, where it's like, if it's because you feel like being authentic isn't enough. Like it wasn't rewarded to be authentic, so you have to do nice things for other people to feel rewarded in who you are, and that's not genuine because it isn't who you are, if it's not who you are.
Well, and that's not even to say you're not nice. It's just that in every single circumstance, just because somebody needs something doesn't mean you're the one who's supposed to give it.
Yeah.
And I think that's like where I go with this video when he was talking. It's like, yeah, just because someone needs something doesn't mean I'm the one who's supposed to give it, and I can still be a kind person. Mm-hmm. Like, too kind, I think, or too nice or too kind is kind of the key word there. It's like, I have a ridiculously huge heart, and I used to give it away at the expense of myself, which is what this whole video talks about, which is funny. I didn't pick the video because of that, but then when I listened to the video, I was like, oh, maybe my spirit guides are talking to me here, and I was supposed to listen to this video. I don't know. But, I think now I'm more kind because when I do show up, I'm authentic and I'm more valuable in that I have more energy and I'm more like productive. Like I can get stuff done in a more aligned way now than I could then. Then I feel like we were all just floundering, right? Like, because it feels like the people I was with were also inauthentic. Mm-hmm. I mean, we were authentic, inauthentically somehow together.
Yeah.
And overgiving.
Like, that's how you get those situations. I remember this specifically with you one time when you were, like, really upset because someone else had, like, paid for something for you. Like, someone else had, like, given you, like, a gift or something like that. And you were like, no, I wanted to do that for them. Like, and you were, like, legitimately upset because they had done this nice thing for you because you felt like you were the one who was supposed to be nice. And it was like that feels like very much like the epitome of this inauthenticity showing through and this like pressure to be too nice, usually coming from within.
Well, and also like that, I think about that and me receiving was really hard. That comes from a wound. Like receiving to me never felt good because I shouldn't say never, that's not fair. Receiving to me often, because of the people that I surrounded myself with, felt like I'm receiving this thing and now you owe me something.
Yeah.
And that was just so dirty to me. It was like, now I'm exhausted so I don't want anything from anybody, so I'm not going to accept it. I would rather give. It's easier for me to give because I don't need anything in return. Makes me feel better, which is so toxic in and of itself. It's just not cool.
Yeah.
But that's where I was, and that doesn't surprise me that you have a memory like that because there was probably a million of them.
Yeah. Well, I also have like that specifically with like receiving things is also something I've struggled with and continue to, is feeling like I am like obligated to something because I'm receiving something. In particular, I think, especially when I was younger, I would be like legitimately feel terrible when I got like a Christmas present, and the more expensive it was, the more I felt this way, and I didn't use it very much, or like I'd use it a couple times or like play with it a couple times, and then I was done with it. Because I felt so bad. I'm like, oh, that person is going to feel so bad because they got me a gift and put all this like money into it or whatever, and they didn't, and I don't end up using it very much. So like I remember one time I was like legitimately like crying in front of like a toy like thing like it was like a building little thing, and I like it was something really interesting. It was a really thoughtful gift. It was the sort of thing you would think I would be super into, and I thought I would be super into it. I just didn't really have a lot of fun with it, so I didn't do it. But like in all of those moments when I was like deciding how am I going to spend my time, I would think like, are there any gifts I need to play with?
Oh, that's so.
And it was just like so exhausting. Like in hindsight, like it was terrible. And like I know no one who gave me those gifts wanted me to feel that way. But it was like, yeah, I that is definitely something I relate to as well.
Yeah.
And I'm better at it now than I used to be, but I'm still not perfect at that, obviously.
Yeah, that can be tricky, but I think the more you show up authentically, also the easier all of those things become. Like it does become easier to receive because you understand. Well, there's just so many layers that come to being authentic. But part of being authentic and not being too kind is setting healthy boundaries. So you don't even allow or accept gifts that come with any sort of a expectation or a string or a need for something else. So over time, as you become more and more authentic, you realize that, well, then the people in your life are also more authentic because it's just, that's how it works as you evolve and grow. And, you know, because there is something about like the energy of someone authentic versus the energy of someone inauthentic. Like there's only so much. I feel like in a previous podcast you talked about, well, like there's groups that you vibe with and groups that you don't, and it's like, who are you going to spend more time with, right? It's like the magnet coming together versus the magnet flipping the other way and pushing you apart. I believe those things happen as we do the work and as we shift and grow, and it's like people come into our life, some for a lifetime, some for a reason, some for a season.
Ooh. Right.
We just talked about that this weekend. We were talking about things like that. We were talking about, some are here for a reason, some for a season, some for a lifetime. And and that brings attachment back. If we're going to come full circle on this video and just wrap it all up in a neat little package, you know, like the attachment of having somebody like they're in my life, they have to be in my life forever. Well, maybe they're not good for you forever, and that's okay. And to be allowed or willing to, you know, release and surrender that attachment, but while they're there, to be attached to the goodness that comes from it is, I think that's an okay thing. It's just like, when is the attachment unhealthy, and when is the attachment healthy, and that's a boundary and on some level. And do you have an awareness? And
do you always feel safe to break that attachment if need be? Like, are you able to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and authentically, if you're living authentically, then the answer is yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Barring like a legitimately unsafe situation where there's like other factors keeping
Fair.
But yes, like by and large, yes.
For this conversation.
For the
purposes of, Oh, that was fun.
Wait.
Unpacking that video was cool. Oh, you got more?
Well, before we go, I just, in the spirit of being authentic, I am a math major, and this guy did some statistical like manipulation in this video that was not good. It was not representative of the actual data that he was presenting. Like, everything he said was true, but it was some misleading facts. So I just want to call those out for a moment, if you'll allow me to.
Sure, you can do you.
Okay.
That's authentic to you as well.
Okay, good. Thank you. So he was talking about how like genes aren't a reliable way to predict disease, and that is largely. Well, it is partially true. Like his statement, he made the claim that is true, that there's no disease. Well, actually, I don't even know if this is true, but he was basically saying like basically nothing is 100% determined by genes. A lot of the times genes make us more susceptible to certain diseases and may have an association there, but there aren't like 100% genes. And he was saying how like we basically, like, genes are a lazy way to look at disease, is maybe not quite verbatim, but what he said. And it's really good to keep that in mind when we look at genes, that they aren't responsible for all cases of a disease, and not everyone who has genes that make them more susceptible to the disease will get that disease, at least from what I've learned. But then he started talking about breast cancer, and he said 7 out of 100 women is what he said, 7 out of 100 people with breasts who have the breast cancer have the gene. And he was like, that's like such a low percentage, and I fact checked that, and it seemed to be true. But that's, in my opinion, really misleading, because the gene, like the gene mutation responsible for causing or associated with breast cancer in that way, is not very prevalent in the population. So if only I don't know its actual prevalency, but if only 5% of people have that that gene, and then 7% of all of the people with breast cancer have that gene, then that would be like expected, or even, you know, less so. So that was a really deceptive way of presenting that. And then right after that, he said, and out of 100 people who have that gene mutation, not all of them will have breast cancer, which is, he said out of 100, and they said not all of them will get breast cancer, which is true, absolutely. But I looked at the statistics, and it said like up to like 78% of people with one or both gene mutations can have or will get breast cancer in their lifetime, you know. And there's like variability there for sure, but it's far from negligible, because in the general population of all people with breasts, about 12% of them will get breast cancer in their lifetime. So there is a significant increase in risk if you have that gene mutation, and the way he presented that information made it seem like genes don't matter at all. So I just wanted to clear that up as a statistics person. that was I didn't like that.
Well, you can come from your statistics background and expertise, and I respect that and honor it. I know nothing about any of it to confirm nor deny. I'm not really I wasn't picking apart that part of the video. Mm-hmm. I don't know that I'm super comfortable calling Dr. Gabor Mate deceptive, but that was your words and your choice, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I think, here's what I think. I think just like we talked about the human brain being really complicated and complex the other way, I think the human body is as well. And I honestly think we all try, and there's definitely experts in their fields, and does anybody really know? I mean, maybe that's a little too blanket, but absolutes are hard for me and across the board, because I think, and maybe this is coming from my psychology study, which I get is different because it's the brain, but like I remember having to do papers, and I could always find both sides of the story, and it confused the hell out of me, because I was like, how can I find one study that proves without a doubt that this is a thing, and then I find another study that proves without a doubt that this other thing that contradicts this thing is also a thing? And I was like, well, maybe I'm looking at bad studies, possibly, right? And also it just made me go, I think I just have to accept that I don't know, and that many people don't know. And as long as we're all looking, and we continue to look, and we continue to dive in, then that's a good thing. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. I think like the one sort of my perspective on that I'll share is that looking at singular studies is generally an incomplete way to like
fair, yes,
to look at those things. Like what we consider scientific truths come from many studies that have all been like repeated and criticized by the scientific community very much, and then this is what we land on based off of all of that evidence. And my understanding of the statistics I found, they were from breastcancer.org, by the way. So people want to fact check me on that or look deeper into that, by all means, I encourage it. I am one person.
Well, and I think the other thing we came to in this podcast was that we don't even necessarily, we're not even going down that avenue that we talked about, because we're not even there.
This isn't what this podcast is about.
No,
I just, as a statistic person, wanted to call him out on that because it's something important to me.
I understand that. I just want to make it clear that like I'm not interested in diving down that
and
piece
that
of
is
his
fair.
claims in any way, shape, or form.
That is fair. But
by you supporting that, I just want to, that's almost like circled in that we are supporting that, and I want to make it clear that we are not supporting like that part of his, like that's not what we're talking about.
Yes, that's not what we're
here.
talking about. Yes.
That's all where I was going with that.
And I'll stick the disclaimer in the description that we don't necessarily support any of these articles that we find. We're using them as a jumping point for conversation.
Yeah, and I love the conversation. Thanks for having this one today.
Yeah, thank you.
That was awesome. So please like and subscribe our podcast, and you can find us at jaidewellness.com, JAIDEE wellness.com. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram are probably the two biggest ones, and also Michelle Albers works for Facebook and Instagram as well, both Jaide and Michelle Albers.
Yeah. Do we have an email? Do you have an email that they can...
Yeah, info@jaidewellness.com.
Okay. If you have any questions or want to get back to us on your opinions on anything,
or want to send us articles to talk about,
exactly,
yeah,
send them to the email or on social media. But
you can
I'd love
private
to
message.
hear.
You can DM at Jaide Studio or Jaide Wellness.
Yeah,
That'd be great.
We'd love to hear what you have to say.
Yeah. All right, I think that's a wrap for this one. Bye. Be you every day.
Bye.